Nevada has banned TikTok from government devices. Fox 5's Mike Allen is here to tell us about the ban and what else is blacklisted.
Yes, John, here are some notable inclusions to the statewide blacklist. One of them might surprise you. There's Alibaba, that's a Chinese company. It's loosely the Chinese version of Amazon. Huawei Technologies, which makes smartphones, among other things, in China. And also Grammarly. This one kind of surprised me. It's a typing assistant that doesn't have any kind of ties to China. It's based in San Francisco, but that one is banned because it can lay claim to intellectual property of whoever uses it as a browser extension. Then, of course, there's TikTok, which is affiliated with China. Many folks are wondering what danger TikTok actually poses. Will it harvest your data to harm America, for example? I asked an expert in the cybersecurity field, and here's what I found. Any plans to ban TikTok on government devices, by the way?
We submitted that at the state level.
When I asked Governor Joe Lombardo last week about a potential TikTok ban, this is what he referred to in his answer: an order that prohibits the use of blacklisted software and applications on state-owned devices. The governor's office says there's a zero-tolerance policy for known security risks. But how big is that risk? It depends on who you ask.
I don't think TikTok, except for the link with China, is any more unique about our private data compared to a lot of other social media apps.
Greg Moody, director of UNLV's cybersecurity program, is dubious about how much impact Nevada's TikTok ban will have. He says much of the fear around Chinese-based TikTok stems from a move 6 years ago, when China passed a law that made many Americans nervous.
Any Chinese company or Chinese national, when requested by the intelligence service of China, has to supply data.
This is the basis for debate in Carson City and on Capitol Hill over whether TikTok is acting as a Chinese government agent. But that private data, which in TikTok's case is generally agreed to be things like online behavior and algorithms developed from your searches, is actually well out of China's reach.
That has, for the last several years, been stored only on U.S. soil.
Moody says it would be difficult for the Chinese government to jump through all the legal hoops in America to get that data for themselves. And besides, Moody says China's already proven it can hack into much more secure systems and view sensitive information, pointing out several big data breaches in the recent past.
There are lots of other ways to get data on people, and they actively work on it. They have a whole intelligence unit that's tasked to find intelligence on American officials. And they're already doing that.
Ultimately, it's email that Moody says is the real key for China to get dirt on American officials, not social media.
You're not going to likely find blackmail material on TikTok unless someone is sharing rather stupid data.
Now, last week, TikTok CEO went before Congress to testify about data from American users. You might remember that. And if you want to see clips of that testimony, you can find them on our website, fox5vegas.com. John, back to you.
Mike, thank you. And as lawmakers on Capitol Hill continue to debate over whether to ban the app from all federal government devices, we will certainly keep you in the loop.